Yeah. So many struggles. It's so many struggles, but you've gotten over them. Yeah.
But that's I want for this book.
Yes.
This book to be a motivation.
Right.
For that,
right.
Because life is no easy, and more for somebody that have a little bit of ambition, but that's how they mean.
Yes, definitely.
But they have just the desire. But with the desire alone, miracles don't happen I wish they happen every day.
Yeah.
But miracles don't happen. You have to, work very hard.
Is that the inspiration behind writing the book?
Yes.
Because of that. So your book, let's talk a little bit about your book. It's called
The American Doctor.
Welcome to Life's Rich Tapestry, a podcast exploring the narrative of people's layered lives. Listen in on courageous conversations spoken from the heart. Gain insight into another's life as we tackle compelling topics which will expand your mind, help you gain perspective, and might even inspire you to do things differently. My name is Evelyn, and I look forward to your company. And welcome to another episode of Life's Rich Tapestry. Earlier this year, I had the pleasure of meeting with Dr. Sal Forcina in his home in Florida. It's funny how the universe works because, yes, I do live in Australia. And before I left to go visit my family in Florida, I got an email from his publicist and asked if I would be interested in interviewing Dr. Forcina, who had just recently released his book entitled The American Doctor. Now, seeing that I was in Florida, I just mentioned, hey, I'm leaving for Florida tomorrow. If the planets align and the universe permits, would love to visit with Dr. Forcina and interview him in his home. And yes, what a treat. In this world of interviewing via streaming or phone call, it was a pleasure to interview him with my H5 Zoom recorder. We were in his office, so there's a bit of an echo. We did get off track a few times, so this interview is indeed edited. Now, it's taken me a lot longer for me to post this than normal. And yes, I'd like to apologize to Dr. Forcina. I'm so sorry it's taken this long. Life has indeed gotten in the way. And I didn't tell him when I met with him, but my girlfriend had actually just passed away a few days before I met with him in his home. So I've been dealing with a few intense grief, grief. Yeah. Just been going through a bit of grief. So I'm slowly getting back into my life and what I love to do. So please stay tuned. And also, I do have other episodes that you can tune into. Now, I hope you enjoy Dr. Forcina's personal story and how he became the American Doctor. Let's start at the beginning, though, because you're right. You've had challenges throughout your life, and you've totally overcome them. So, yes, let's start at the beginning. So, where were you born?
I was born in Scauri. It's between Rome and Naples. It's the Lazio province, or Lazio, close to Monte Cassino, for those that know history. Monte Cassino was in World War II, the place where the Germans were in the top of the mountain, and they controlled the advance of the Allied troops that come from the south. And they were, the front was stopped there for more than half a year. They couldn't advance. There were thousands and thousands of dead for both sides. There is in the top of Monte Cassino was completely bombarded.
Right.
This Monte Cassino, it was built in the year 500 AD, but the wall was big wall. They destroyed the bombardment, but eventually, after World War II, they rebuilt this place like it was before. If you go today, it looked like nothing happened, but there were a lot of dead, a lot of people suffering, and
as a young child, do you remember that vaguely?
Well, my father used to talk to me. Because you see what happened, because the front line there, the German placed a lot of mines all over the mines, so the people had to move to the mountain. The refugee had to go to the mountain. When you are in the mountain, you don't have the clothes, you don't have food, you don't have nothing. So people were building a shack, whatever, with the branches or whatever, and covered with dirt, stones, or whatever. But being all close together, and there was no water supply, they had to melt the snow to in order, and being so close, and they put hygiene, and they didn't have immunity because they didn't have the food supply was scarce. And so what happened, there were some area, there were lice, and there were lice, they had the typhus.
Right.
And there was the area where the time where there was no DDT.
Right.
So the women had their major job, the inner clothes were thick layer of wool made on the shirt. So, and they didn't change that every day. They changed it once in a while. So what happened, the women have a big cauldron, put fire underneath, melted the snow, and they put the cloth there, and when they
and to wash it that way,
to boil that, to kill the so that to give an idea how tough was.
So those are your memories of before you immigrated.
Yeah.
So what made your father decide to immigrate to Argentina?
All right. What happened? My father, his family used to work in a ceramic called the CH. They used to make tile, bricks, whatever. And that was the only factory really in that area. But during World War II, everything was destroyed. There was no job. There was misery. So this factory was decided to go to open a new one in Argentina.
Okay.
And so what happened, they offered the possibility to 60 different people with different bricklayer, carpenter, plumber, whatever, okay, to go there for 2 years. And eventually they want to come back, could they go back and repatriate, otherwise just stay there in Argentina, whatever. And so my father did that. And of course, my father was a Marine during the war. He saw a lot of atrocity. His brother got killed, the brother-in-law got killed. His father disappeared for many, many months, and nobody knew if he was a German prisoner, took to Germany, because the German used to take the prisoner, take to Germany to work in the factories, because they need people.
Yeah.
Okay, so nobody knew. So he developed a psychosis about the war.
Yeah.
So the farther away at that time, Argentina was the farther area of the world where you could go, where there was a remote chance to have a war.
Right.
And so that's why he went there in 1947, and we joined him in 1949, in May 1949. Me, my brother, and my mother. My brother, I was 8 years old, and my brother was not even 2 years old. All right. And so we went to Argentina. In Argentina, we were really immigrant. It's not the immigrant that today you have in so many places with the benefit and your assistant and this and that. You were at the bottom of the scale.
Right. And you had to figure out how you're going to work things out in this new country.
Well, because I remember I had some vivid picture of my mother. Now that I have a certain age, I look back at that. First of all, we used to live in the outskirts of the city. Yeah. And when you live in the outskirts of the city, the poor area, there were no asphalt, there were no sewages, there were no water supply, you had a pump for it. So you don't have gas, you don't have nothing, okay? When rain, flood, you're at the mercy of the nature, all right? And so I remember in the beginning, my poor mother was around 30 years old. And she went through war.
Yes.
And so what happened was that I remember we used to play in the street, kicking the ball. I was, like I say, 8 years old. And so we made a ball with the socks, putting clothes inside, and that was a round shape, ended up being like a sausage after you kick so much of that head. So my mother used to come out and used to ask me, Sal, have you seen the mailman delivering the mail? And I used to tell, no, Mom, well, we had to book one. We had to wait for tomorrow for possible mail to come to have a news of the family. At that time, she didn't speak Spanish. She didn't have friends. She was isolated.
Oh, it would have been so hard.
So looking back, and the life was harsh. So she was working. My father was working in the factory, and my mother was working over there with the garden, digging. We were building the house, and one brick at a time. She used to have everything ready there. In the winter time, there was not enough time. It was dark. My father had put the electric bulb there to use the material that my mother had prepared. They were very difficult.
Yeah. We've just heard about the atrocities of World War II and why his father immigrated to Argentina. He came first. He went there in 1947 with a family following in 1949. And of course, not being able to speak the language, that must have been very difficult. Tune in now to this next part of the interview where Sal's life changes when he moves in with the priests, and also how the violin transforms his life, and also how medical school comes about.
What happened, not too far away from my parents' house, there was a church. And those priests, Redemptorists, German priests, they came to preach whatever, and they mainly to get what we vocation, another way, to get children to come to the convent, if possible, to become priests. And so they showed me the picture of the horse, the pony that they had. The kids, they were in a small creek, they were swimming there, and then playing tennis, whatever. Okay? And all this was for me, that we don't have nothing,
You were in heaven.
In heaven, yes. So, and they told me, would you like to join us? Or whatever. I went to my father, of course, my father saw the opportunity for me to study. So, anyhow, the school was in Buenos Aires.
Okay.
300 kilometers far away from my parents. I was 11 years old. That separation from the anxiety I created when you are 11 years old. And the school was like some sort of like a military, not military, but the discipline was a strict regulation, a lot of prayer, a lot of masses. For somebody 11 years old, a study, hour study, and I was going crazy, and I was disciplined. So for me, that was really a wild, in some way, child. Sooner or later, with all the punishment and the way that they talk to me and this and that, and they make me very shy, very timid, very introverted. My personality changed completely.
And you only were able to see your family once a year.
In December. Because December summer there after the exam. So, and I used to go and for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. And when I had to go back, and the first weeks, they were terrible because I felt a separation from my mother. My mother, and I remember she saw me once a year, and she would prepare my special dish was gnocchi.
Gnocchi.
With potato, with the sauce. And so my mother used to say, "Son, what do you want to do? Mom, make a gnocchi." Okay. So the following day, "Sir, what do you want?" Gnocchi. And my father said, "Well, you don't know nothing else."
So as a young child, that's really young, 11 for 7 years.
7 years.
So I can imagine it was pretty harsh discipline.
Very hard. But you know what happened? And the worst was in the beginning, I didn't want to study. But gradually, and you see what motivated, my father used to talk to me, telling me when he was in his youth, they didn't have radio, they didn't have television, they didn't have a phone, they didn't have nothing. So what happened, once a year or twice a year, the priest, there was a small square there, and everybody used to get together there, and they used to bring some musicians.
Oh,
And they used to,
okay.
at that time, the several musicians put together somebody they were good musicians, somebody they were just local, and they used to play segment of the operas
Wow.
or concerti,
Okay,
whatever,
yeah.
or Italian songs. They were classic.
Yes.
Torna Sorrento, you know, all, something like that. So my father used to tell me about the violin and this and that. And I was a child, I never saw a violin. I didn't know what the violin was. So when I went to this school, there was an orchestra. The school was called Jovenado. Jovenado for the youth. Okay. So what happened was the school and people studying instruments.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And I applied violin. No,
Yeah.
my father talked to me about that.
yeah.
For me, was So what happened was that I made an application, and because my grades were so poor, I was rejected,
Okay.
and that hurt me.
Yeah.
So the following year, I started to go up and I saw the Pavlov.
That effect of getting good grades.
So I get
yeah.
a compensation, and I started to study violin, and then I like my violin. I play that, and as a matter of fact, when I left at 7 years, and I went to school, outside school in Azul, the town where my parents used to live in Argentina. My father asked me, he said, "What do you want to do?" Dad, I want to be a concertist.
Oh, okay.
So my father say, "Listen, he had common sense."
Yeah.
You see, in Argentina at that time.
Yes.
And my father say, "You have to sell. You have to think about your future. You're going to have a family. You're going to have kids. You have to feed those kids. And to be a concertist and survive, you have to be number one. And how many number one can be in this world?"
Yeah.
So they see, my father had a common sense. And so that's why eventually my friends, that they were the son of a lawyer, estanciero, people have a lot of land, cows, they were going to the university in La Plata, close to Buenos Aires.
Okay.
And so, and what happened is that my father, talking to my father, said, "Dad, I would like to try too." Medicine.
Okay.
Yes. I studied medicine, and I was 7 years, I went to medical school for 7 years. And just to give an idea, here, God bless, you go to medical school, you have your own microscope.
Yes.
Over there was a line, and you couldn't even sit down because they're pushing you. Because you have maybe one microscope for every 10, 20 students.
Yeah.
So you don't have too much of that. So that's the way you had to,
You had to study.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you had to really, for me, you had, my father, in the simple, he didn't have the knowledge, but he put in me the desire. There was an inner light inside me that say, you had to be somebody. The only thing is that, you see, what happened here, looking back, here you go to college and you say already, before you go to college, already you had the guy that telling you what specialty, what are you going to be?
Yeah.
For me,
Yeah.
I was like a small boat in the middle of the ocean at the mercy of the wind.
Yes.
And I didn't see the horizon, and you're just there because you cannot make any plan, because it's like a person, they are desperate.
Yeah.
What kind of plan are you going to make? You don't even know if you're going to survive tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's was the...
Yeah, so many challenges. And so after you finished university, I guess you practiced a little bit in Argentina?
No, I didn't practice. Yeah. What happened was that my parents kept the Italian tradition. And in some way convinced me to go to Italy.
Okay.
And the history, the custom, the thing, the family there, whatever. Okay. And I decided to go to Italy in order to specialize there. But because the hemisphere are different over there, we finish in December, summer, and by June, May, whatever it's over. So I had to send all the paper. There's a diploma. If you look at that diploma over there in the back, stamps, so many stamps through the Italian embassy. Had to go to Italy for me to take those exams. Anyhow, I had to wait until September.
Okay.
And of course, I was not happy. I was down.
Yeah.
And I was, you can see a scout. It has a nice beach. And so people from America, Italian, they had migrated, go there. And I met one gentleman that knew a little bit of me, maybe it was a distant relative of mine. And he said, son, what are you doing here? You had to come to America.
Yeah.
Here there is no possibility.
Yeah. What year was that?
I went there in 1969. I graduated in December 68.
Okay.
I was in Italy March 1st, I think, or April 1st.
Okay.
Or March 1st, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I arrived there, and but I had to wait. Anyhow. So when they talk, because I was very naive, I never have any person that guide me or tell me what to do. You see, like I said, my life, I compare my life like going through a tunnel.
Yes.
And you see a light at the end of the tunnel. And so I keep going, hurry to reach the tunnel because I want to get out. And so, but when I reach there, I saw the light. There's a sign say dead end. And that was my life.
Yeah.
That's what my life.
But you were able to keep going.
Yes.
It didn't get you down. So that was good.
I have my moments.
Yes.
No, everything is rosy.
Yeah.
I have many times I was ready to quit.
So Dr. Forcina he's become specialized and studied, but he goes to America and he discovers this.
When I came to America, my MD was not recognized.
Yep. It's interesting because a lot of countries you'll come to America and they're not recognized at all.
It was not recognized. I had to pass a major exam.
Yeah.
That when you pass that exam, you are allowed to apply to the hospital to start internship. 5-year internship.
Oh my goodness.
But the problem was that I didn't speak English. I didn't speak English. And when I saw for the first time the multiple choices, I was 28 years old and I didn't have a clue what the reasoning behind that. So this is it's like a climbing the mountain without shoes and barefoot and without proper clothes. You go to the Himalaya where it's 40 degrees below and you don't have the right clothes. And that's the way my life was.
Ultimately, Dr. Forcina does pass the language test and also does his internship. Now, his second year at Cooper University Hospital, which is a teaching hospital and biomedical research facility located in Camden, New Jersey, he meets his future father-in-law, who was a dean at the Academy of Music. And he's a concert pianist. But listen to this next story.
I was doing surgery, and so there was a note to go to see the specialist. Because the IV team had tried to start an IV, they couldn't get the IV. He had major complications. He was not able to eat. He had tubes coming all over. Okay, and I remember this gentleman. He was sitting on a chair, close to the bed. He had big eyes. He was pale. He was scared.
Yeah.
His arms, his face were all black and blue and swollen with the IV infiltration. He was, it's like you had lost hope.
Yeah.
So I walk in and introduce myself, and he's Mr. Petrillo, he's Italian.
Italian.
And so we start to speak Italian. We start to speak Italian, and he was telling me his life. He had been in Italy, He was friend of Toscanini. He had now as the dean, and he was have been in charge. Well, La Scala Milan, famous opera house, the roof was all destroyed, bombarded, and so he was one of the guys in charge, and brought Toscanini back from the United States to the inauguration. And so we were talking, and so he, after a while, he was so relaxed. He said, "Dr. Forcina, when are you going to start the IV now?" He didn't realize.
Wow.
That I got with one, not because I was an expert.
Yes.
I was just, I believe in the destiny.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So what happened, I was able to get that IV, and from that day on, I was in his...
Good books.
Yeah, I was in his, I was somebody, that deserve respect or whatever. So eventually, he got better, and he was discharged. And because he was a very influential person, he was invited to a private concert. Philippe Antremont and Nadja Sonnenberg, they were there. And so what happened was that he couldn't go. So he told the daughter that I had met, Roberta, beautiful girl. And so what happened was that I had met her in the hospital.
Yeah.
But then we talked a few times like that, And so my father-in-law asked my future wife, Roberta, if she didn't mind to represent them with the resident that took good care of him. Okay? Yeah. And of course, my wife still today say that she was not too crazy because she said, "What I'm going to talk to him." He said, "What?" She felt inferior, but I felt inferior too.
Okay.
So we were there. So anyhow, we matched. Yeah. So anyhow, to make a long story, we went to this place in Philadelphia. You should see. I mean, for me, coming with my background or whatever, I say, well, it's like a dine and be in paradise.
Yes, yes.
So anyhow, so eventually we went to the club, commissary club, and the Philadelphia Naval Club, and we have a dinner there, and we were dancing. And one of the things of the dance, I told her, would you imagine that you would be dancing with this guy in green, because that was the scroll suit that I used to wear in the hospital. No? Yeah. And so that they had a very nice moment. For instance, another time, I remember we were not married yet. We were engaged. And we were in a restaurant in Philadelphia. My mother-in-law, my father-in-law, Roberta and me. And so at that time I was the chief of surgery. We were two chief of surgery the last year. But we took call from home. We had the beepers at the time.
Yeah.
And so what happened was that when the resident, they're different, second year, third year, fourth year, whatever, there's in a case, whatever, they call you, you go to evaluate, and then you call the attendant, and they had to do surgery, So what happened was we were having dinner, and they beat me. Okay. And they told me somebody got gunshot wounds, whatever. Okay. So I say to prepare the operating room, whatever, and to call the attendant. I will be there. So happened that Roberta brought me to the hospital. As we were parking the car, my attendant was coming out, and he had met Roberta before because we have been in his house. And he say, "Have you been in the operating room before?" He say, so she's a teacher, a special aid. She got the master in special aid. Right. So she didn't have a clue about it. She said, "Would you like to come?" So I said, "Okay." So she came to the operating room. Of course, the nurses, they give a few instructions not to touch anything. They give the gown, whatever they had. And she saw from me doing the surgery.
Wow.
The attendant was supervised, but I did the surgery. So for her it was a different world. And for me it was a routine. But when I went back and she was explaining to her parents, so from that day on, after God, I guess I was second in command.
I absolutely loved Sal's humor and, how he got Roberta into the operating room of seeing the surgery. And I just love that, yes, after that day, she saw him as being, after God, the second in command. And how I also loved listening to the stories about how hard his parents worked. And when they finally did come to America, it sort of inspired him. So the next part of this interview is we'll talk a little bit about how the book came into existence. When did you bring your parents back over to Italy from Argentina?
Okay, my parents came to United States. We brought them here when we got married.
Okay.
Right?
What year was that?
Oh, God.
We just talked about that.
You're going to get me in trouble now. Because,
okay, no worries. We did bring that. I forgot.
Yeah. She can tell you.
Okay. 70s sometime, I think. Yeah.
Wait a minute. It's 70...
6, maybe?
76, I think 76. It's terrible. I'm sorry. So what happened? So they came here for the wedding.
Okay.
And met the family with my father's sister was in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. And after that, we convinced them to go back to Italy.
Okay.
And we helped them out. Okay. And financially too, because they had lost everything.
Yes.
And they were not young anymore.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, they eventually built in Scoury. And and they, they had the best life.
Yeah. So the last
years. Yeah, but they were not young anymore.
Yeah.
They went through the war. They were 30 years over there, sacrifice. But when the satisfaction and I have is that they were able to see me
succeed
in different country and be somebody.
Yes.
And this was my father, his dream.
Yes.
His dream since I was a little boy. He used to talk to me about the thing. I remember we were in Argentina. I was young. This was before I went with the priest. And we used to eat outside, have dinner outside. And when we were eating here in the garden, he was watering because after his regular job, at night, he had a bicycle and with a small box, and he used to sell vegetables, whatever, to make some extra money. Because, see, he was not just, there was no welfare, there was nothing. So you had to... If you cry, nobody's going to have pity on you. So anyhow, he used to tell me, and I remember eventually we purchased a radio. Mm-hmm. This radio was you could hear from a mile away that the storm was coming because there was no transistor. There were the big when lightning or thunder were coming. There was tremendous static. Mm-hmm. And I remember there was an Italian program where we were having dinner over there, and they were playing the Italian song. There was a 1 hour a night, whatever, Italian song. And my father used to explain to me, there was, for instance, for partono I bastimenti. The boat are leaving Italy to go to faraway land because the misery, the immigrant, had to go to Australia, they had to South America, because there was no way of, there was no life over there. They didn't have resources, there were no interest. Everything was destroyed with the war. So all that, he used to tell me those small things, and at that time I didn't understand. I didn't understand. But eventually, that thing took effect because you know what happened? I had to start to admire them because, say, look at this. They went through the war. They left their family. They left their roots. They went to another country where they are foreigner. The language is different. The custom is different. They don't have any friends. So it's a terrible psychologically. And And at that time, you don't have the resources you have today.
Exactly. But they were survivors.
Yeah, they were survivors.
Survivors,
because they never give up.
They never give up.
And that's what they get energy they gave me.
Yes, of course.
Even I have moments that I was really ready to give up, I didn't give up.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's my point of my book.
Yes, definitely. So they were able to enjoy the last few years in Italy, in their home country.
Yes.
So it kind of came full circle, didn't it?
Yes. People say, Dr. Forcina, where do you come from? I came from Italy. Oh, we love Italy. We go and the food and this this, the art, Florence and this, and Rome. And so we start to talk. And we thought, and the same thing I'm telling you.
Yes.
How came you came here? You're practicing here. How they go?
Yeah.
All the things I just told you.
Yeah.
I told to more than one person.
Yeah.
And more than one occasion, I was told, wow, Dr. Forcina, you should write down. You should write down this it's an inspiration for people in this country, wherever, they have everything. Yeah. And some of them, they don't take advantage.
That's so true. That's so true.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you have everything. And they go out of the way. I mean, they get lost.
Yeah.
Okay? And here we have a guy that doesn't have anything and accomplished something. Yes. And not in his country, because there was no possibility there. In another country where he didn't speak the language, and he didn't have connection, he didn't have nothing.
So you have taken, things have really happened for you.
So now, what happens, so eventually when I retire, I was being here, and sometimes I start to, listen to my music, my opera, whatever, watching some television. And I start to think about my parents when I lost them.
Yeah.
And the memories start to come.
Yeah.
And so what happened, I get my iPad and I start to write. And start to write a few thoughts and a thing. So I send it to my daughter, Vanessa. God bless her soul. I get emotional now.
Yeah.
I get emotional. So what happened? And Vanessa said, Daddy, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, Daddy. That's beautiful. And I kept going.
Yes.
And I kept going. And so that's the way the book came about. And eventually, when I got my granddaughter, Lennon, that she's going to be 8 years old in May, I say, I want to dedicate this book to her.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Because, I'm not going to be around all the time.
Yeah, that's
It's
so
going
true.
to be a time when I'm not going to be here. And she's going to be a teenager. And maybe she's going to go, who knows? The teenager years, sometimes they're difficult years. And maybe when she's ready, whatever, that doesn't have any hope, maybe she pick up this book, open up and start to read one page. And she said,
inspired.
Wow, my grandpa didn't have nothing.
Yeah.
Didn't have a house, didn't have a heat, didn't have television. I have everything, and I'm complaining.
Exactly.
If I maybe in some way inspire that, not just her, but another individual too, one person can produce a change. I think it's beautiful. Would be beautiful.
I think it's beautiful when people share their stories, because there is things that we all can relate to, and I think we can all relate to that resilience and that toughness that you've exhibited.
But we, the irony of life. I'm very happy what I've accomplished. I had done thousands of surgery, major surgery. I had thousands of life.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And so I am grateful to this country.
Yes.
For allowing me to, but nobody put the red carpet for me.
Yeah.
I had to work.
You've worked for everything.
But give me the possibility, they gave me the possibility that I didn't have in other places.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm very appreciative.
Yes.
I loved it, and I pledged, became citizen eventually, and I pledged loyalty to this country. And I want to, I'm very proud to be a father, American daughter, American wife.
Yes.
And
a book that's entitled The American Doctor.
The American Doctor.
So, yes.
And there is a lot of my past, And I hope
Yeah.
my experience could be
Influence
a
somebody.
torching light, a faro to guide somebody.
Exactly.
And that's my dream.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sure,
I'm so
my pleasure.
grateful
My pleasure.
to be able to interview you.
Sure,
so thanks a
my
lot.
pleasure.
I hope you've enjoyed this interview that I did with Dr. Forcina earlier this year. And it's always great to hear stories about how one gets through life, has these sort of challenges, major challenges. I mean, moving to a new country, not speaking the language, becoming a doctor, moving to America, and just the various things that Dr. Forcina went through. So for me, the American doctor, I think the key takeaways were that education and resilience are key to achieving success, regardless of your background or starting point. And of course, navigating a new experience can be complex and challenging, but it's possible to succeed with dedication and strategic planning. And then, of course, I think the number one takeaway is that success in any competitive field requires hard work, determination, and a willingness to adapt to changing circumstances. And I think that's exactly what Dr. Forcina did. And I will have the details in the show notes on how you can purchase Dr. Forcina's The American Doctor. I hope you've enjoyed this story and my interview with Dr. Forcina, and I look forward to your company next time here on Life's Rich Tapestry.